Welcome to Real People, Real Voices. I'm your host, James Jackson.
I'm your co-host, Pastor Wayne Moore.
Always a pleasure to host with you.
Always good to be in your presence, my friend.
Great show on today.
Great show
Got
on
a great
today.
guest.
We have, I call him in certain circles when I'm with my friend, the Hog Man is with us today. So,
and the more particularly the Honorable
Mayor
Joe
Hogsett.
Hogsett.
He's with us today, and he's going to tell us about this budget.
Yeah.
And what the city of Indianapolis can expect, and how it's going to reach out throughout the community, and not only from, looks like it's going to do some economic development, take care of public safety, and even the community is etched in this budget. That's good news.
A lot of increases in it without raising taxes.
1.2 billion,
yeah.
I believe it is, without raising taxes. The theme is it's a balanced budget, and so we'll see.
And bipartisan.
And bipartisan, which is great. So. We're reading and paying attention, aren't we?
We are, and I was going through it last night. Another impressive thing was the mayor increased the crime prevention monies to help deal with prevent crime to $3 million. Added some money to it.
I'd like to take it back up to $5 million. I'd like to see it get back up there.
That's going to be hard because the prior administration lowered the county option income tax.
Right.
And so he would have to raise the tax.
Right.
And I don't see him doing that.
We're going to find out.
Yeah. Now we sound like we're calling a football game.
Yeah, man.
I don't see him raising that county option income tax.
Okay, well, that was a technical foul.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah,
that's probably a show me and you.
Yeah, we got to handle that. Yeah.
We got a lot to talk about. We want to thank our sponsors, Lee Costello and Crowley, Fervent Care Child Care and Christian Academy, and the Marion County Public Health Department. Got a lot more to share with you. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Real People, Real Voices, and we're joined by the Honorable Mayor Joe Hogsett.
Happy to have you, Mayor.
I'm blessed to be with you.
And God bless you for these first almost 4 years.
It's hard to believe that 4 years can go by as quickly. I know that I'm a lot more gray up top than I was 4 years ago, but other than that, it's been a wonderful opportunity to serve the people of Indianapolis.
How many ball heads have you had since you've been mayor?
Well, I just did it for, I think, the third time.
And
it keeps coming back. Yeah. Now, my wife explains to me that, and you two exude it, that the baldness is a style.
Yeah. It is a style.
But she's also honest enough with me to say from time to time, when I do get my hair shaved, she says, "You don't do bald."
Yeah, she's happy when it grows back.
She's happy when it grows back.
And you've done it for some great causes.
Yeah, I'll just mention for a moment this year, Jack Klein Day, which is the celebration that I participate in, they raised over $150,000 on that weekend for pediatric cancer research.
Great.
And if you're going to be able to raise that kind of money to help our kids avoid and cure cancer, I'll be happy to shave my head every week if that'd help.
I'll be happy to grow hair. Congratulations. I mean, you're at a point now to where you have a brand new budget going into 2020. You're running as an incumbent. I've looked at the budget extensively in the last few hours. I see that you have some increases. We're looking at $1.2 billion that you're committed to fiscally. Let me dispel something, if I could. There are those who have watched, like I have, the City County Council, when we talk about a balanced budget and being a pastor, and sometimes we have budgets, and sometimes there needs to be a surplus sometimes, although the budget might be balanced. Do you anticipate that happening as much this year with this budget as it did with the last budget? In other words, what I'm saying is, you say you have a balanced budget, but something might come up to where you have to. Does that make sense?
Ask for more?
Yeah.
Here's the good news and what the city has experienced. If you begin the year, as we have these last 2 years, and now this being the third, with a honestly balanced budget so that you have reason to believe that by the year's end, your debits and your credits will equal each other. The truth is also that over the course of the year, many departments in city government will underspend or won't spend as much as budgeted. And so you almost have built into the process a guarantee that by the end of the year, even if some expenses and costs come up that are unanticipated, you'll have more than enough to make up for those unanticipated costs and still end the year even Steven. A good example is, as the council often says, well, we passed a budget that was balanced, and yet we need more equipment for police, or we need some additional dollars for crime prevention grants. And they'll pass those. And so somebody will always raise their hand and say, but now the budget is out of balance. Well, the truth is, it's not out of balance. It's just we're taking advantage of monies that are underspent.
That are sitting in the budget.
That are sitting in the budget that, frankly, if we did not spend it, it would end the year as a surplus and roll over as a surplus into the next year. Now, I'm not saying that we're spending money recklessly, but when needs occur, you have to respond because you're serving the people. And I'm just glad that when we begin each year, knowing full well that there's enough money to cover all the anticipated costs, there's probably enough money to cover the unanticipated costs as well.
So, Mayor, 156 pages or so. Certainly not everybody's going to read the budget page for page. Your signature will be at the end of that when this is all over. Tell us about some of the key investments in this budget.
Yeah, as Pastor Moore indicated, it's a $2.1 billion, or 1.2, excuse me, $1.2 billion budget, which is the largest budget in the history of our city. But it's balanced, which is important. Primarily, the investments are across the board, but it won't surprise either of you two to know because you're leading lights in these, in your advocacy. First of all is public safety. We continue to invest in public safety, both IMPD providing our officers with much needed salary increases so that we can retain and recruit.
They were pretty significant.
Top officers, yeah. We made a judgment that we needed to increase the first and second year salary of police officers, because the truth is we were having trouble recruiting police officers at the salary levels that we were being paid, that they were being paid. So the investment in our officers, investment in better equipment and technology, as I know you know from last night's announcement, we will be investing for the very first time in our city's history in body cameras for IMPD. We've been piloting a body camera program in 2019. We aren't going to fully fund body cameras in 2020, but we'll begin the process of scaling up the body cams, knowing and learning from what we have seen in our pilot program. And I think that is an important step forward to protect the well-being of officers, as well as protect the well-being, the transparency for the public as a whole. So investments in public safety continue, and it's not just police, it's fire as well. And then it won't come as a surprise to either of you that we're increasing our investments in infrastructure. The truth is that we need to spend more money in roads and bridges and streets. We're actually going to be spending $30 million in 2020 in stormwater projects. So throughout the community, the people of Indianapolis and Marion County will be seeing an improved infrastructure program.
And the $118 million for roads is going to be there as well for resurfacing and bridges and sidewalks and greenways. So you're doing some work with the infrastructure that will, be very noticeable
Well, it will be, because the truth is the winters that we experience these days are different than winters were when we may have been younger men. I remember winters when it would snow and would stay sub-zero for weeks at a
Yeah,
time.
you didn't see the asphalt for about 3 or 4 months.
And now a winter is normal if you have dramatic temperature fluctuations,
Right.
which, of course, when you add on top of that the fact that precipitation falls largely as rain in the wintertime these days, not as snow or as ice, it wreaks havoc. And then when you run hundreds of thousands of automobiles over those roads, we have tremendous deterioration. And so we really are making a short-term investment of a $400 million 4-year road resurfacing investment. And at the same time, in the State of the City address this year, I proposed a comprehensive regional approach so that the state legislature, so that the contiguous counties to Marion can really start to address in the long term the infrastructure needs of central Indiana. I'll close with just one point that I think your viewers appreciate, but it's always important to underscore. We have every single day in Marion County 170,000 people drive into Indianapolis for employment, but they do not live in Marion County. They live in one of the contiguous counties. And so their local option income taxes, the taxes that they pay for local services, go back to their county of residence. They don't stay in Marion County. And I'm not advocating that they should, but I am advocating that if they're going to be part of the use of Indianapolis infrastructure, then there ought to be a more equitable distribution of those local resources so that we can maintain roads not only for ourselves, but for them too.
Yeah.
Because they're using the roads.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about it when we come back from the break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Real People, Real Voices. We're joined by the Honorable Mayor Joe Hogsett, Indianapolis. And I've got a big budget here, $1.2 billion, and going into an election cycle to become mayor again. One of the things I noticed in the budget and in your special initiatives is the compliance officer, which will be new, and kind of talk about that and how that relates to quelling this violence that we've had over the last several years.
Yes. Well, in terms of the way the compliance officer would be multitask, not only could that really help improve our city in terms of if a city is going to offer incentives for some kind of economic development or other forms of development, and they receive those incentives, then the city has a right to make sure that whether it be in terms of minority contracting and subcontracting participation, whether it be in assuring that the appropriate wages are paid and that all wages are verified and documented so that no one is being taken advantage of. That type of compliance is very important to make sure that the taxpayers of the city of Indianapolis are getting their money's worth if the taxpayers are participating in that development. On the other hand, and I think the point that you're making, Pastor, it's very important that at all levels we are increasing our enforcement personnel, whether that be in IMPD or whether that be in EMS, to make sure that our citizens are well served, their safety protected, our peace, the peace on our streets is maintained, and our neighborhoods are as peaceful as we can make them. And that's why I'm proud that in the 4 years that I have served, by the end of 2019, we will have seen a net increase of 150 police officers for IMPD. We've actually hired nearly 300, but because of retirements and other forms of attrition, the net number is around 150. And that will go a long way toward allowing IMPD to stop to stop its zone-based jurisdictional focus and go back to a more neighborhood-based, community-oriented beat policing system, so that our law enforcement officers can get out of their cars, get to know their neighborhoods, they get to know the retail and the commercial establishments in their neighborhoods, and they can be more proactive. At the same time, we have, over the course of every year of this administration, increased our crime prevention, crime reduction grant monies, so that local neighborhood and community groups have access to those types of resources that will allow them to participate meaningfully in reducing the level of crime and violence that may occasionally occur in their areas. And so I'm glad that the council has approved every year for 4 years a $250,000 increase. Now it's in the aggregate $1 million more than we had 4 years ago. And I do think that in other cities where you have seen a decrease in the level of violent crime, where you have seen a decrease in the level of homicides or non-fatal shootings, it's in those cities where investment has been made in crime reduction, crime prevention, and crime intervention. You always need to have an adequate police force, and one that is dedicated to protecting and serving. But it's not just enough to say, okay, well, we've added more police, now this is their problem, let them take care of it. No, if we're going to eradicate crime and violence in the city of Indianapolis, which is what I'm absolutely committed to do, we need pastoral leadership, we need community and neighborhood leadership. It's going to take all of the people of the city of Indianapolis to participate in making Indianapolis as peaceful a city as we can imagine.
Also in the budget, I see the incentive of the homeless. Is this the first time that you bring this incentive to this council and to the city of Indianapolis?
Yeah, the council passed an appropriation in late summer, early fall, which really, I think, is meaningful in a couple of different ways. First of all, we have pursued, among the chronically homeless in Indianapolis, a housing first strategy. And in fact, several years ago in the State of the City address, I asked the city to find 400 permanent supportive housing units. And we've actually exceeded that number. Now, that sounds like the big lift, finding the units for those who need them. But that's really kind of the easy part. You find the units, you find a way to help subsidize and pay for those units. But what people who have experienced chronic homelessness really need are the wraparound social services that help them transition from a life of resiliency out on the streets to a more familiar life for the three of us in a stable, warm, sheltered home. And that's why the Central Indiana Community Foundation has stepped forward to raise almost $1 million, if not $1 million a year for 4 years, to help us provide wraparound social services so that transition can be completed. The other thing that I think it bears underscoring is the effort the council has supported financially to address the panhandling challenges that all too often manifest themselves downtown, but frankly, viewers of this program probably see it out on the interstate highways where people will be panhandling. We actually have seen some real success in a program that the council supported where those who are panhandling downtown and throughout our community are given the opportunity to find meaningful work, helping the community out by going throughout the area, cleaning up areas, and essentially making as much as $10 to $12 to, in some cases, $14 an hour to begin changing their lives. And we've seen some measured success.
Which these wraparound services have to be in place for them to tap into.
Absolutely. And it's a comprehensive, it's a holistic effort, and it's one that won't necessarily just wave a magic wand and solve the problem overnight, but we're making progress.
But you know me, Mayor, I'd like to see those numbers increase to 5K, 3K, because those resources will quickly be exhausted.
That's absolutely right, and that's why we need to continue the fiscally responsible view that I have tried to bring to budgeting that allows us to enter into and address the needs of the city in a balanced and fair way, which then allows you to start making more investments in areas that have historically been underfunded.
We've got about a minute and a half left. You win a second term. What do you want your legacy to be?
I think that there's a lot of different things I have begun in these first 4 years that I would like the opportunity to continue. Public safety, obviously, is one. If we were able to meaningfully say that we have changed the trajectory of, we already have seen a decrease in violent crime, but in homicides, in non-fatal shootings, getting the guns out of the hands of, in too often the case, young people who have no business carrying around a gun. If we're able to do that, and if we're able to, at the same time, improve the lot of so many people who find themselves in a multi-generational challenge with poverty, I think we'll have a much better city than the one I inherited when I was first elected.
Well, you've been a great guest. All the best to you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Appreciate it.
It's always good to be with you.
Thank you,
Pastor.
Honorable.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for being with us. We hope you enjoyed the show today, and we'll see you next time.